What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Let's talk about it. And in this video, I want to talk about the highlighted events dealing with this Waterloo Courthouse and just how badly I've been railroaded by this courthouse. I've had some major issues with this courthouse, the court staff, the judges, the deputy judges, some crown attorneys, and what I'm about to share with everyone is honestly very disturbing. The corruption that I've experienced, it's just I'm still in shock. I'm looking forward to the days where I can start making a little bit more pleasant content. And not have to continue share this experience. But in the meantime, this is what I have to do because I'd never thought I'd be sharing this information. I never thought what I went through I would ever experience. I got railroaded so hard by this courthouse and these judges, mismanaging my case that I ultimately was given a $60,000 court order. Still to this day, I don't know how to pay. My bank accounts are frozen. And it's this psychotic, unhinged lawyer, John David Ekpyong, and his client that have gotten away with just straight up abusing the courts. And, I've shared before, they've submitted fraudulent documents, they've committed perjury. And, collectively, this courthouse and the individuals that I'm about to speak about all collectively ruined my life. All this courthouse did and all this lawyer and his unhinged client, an ex-girlfriend, all they did was take out a hardworking member of society that was enjoyed going to work and actually enjoyed contributing to my community, paying paying taxes through the nose. At one point, I was paying $7,000 a month in just federal tax alone. And this courthouse railroaded me. So I want to get into all the problems I've had with this courthouse. And I don't think you guys are going to believe what I'm about to say. But I'm going to back everything up with evidence. And you'll see along this video that everything I speak about is factual. It's really hard to, for this video to be calm and collective considering what these individuals did to me, what they got away with. And I'm just here to expose the truth. And, it's just shocking. This is just beyond shocking. So I've had nothing but problems with this Waterloo Kitchener courthouse. Okay, I've had nothing but problems with the court staff, some of these deputy judges, two in particular, two crown attorneys, and a handful of judges that managing my cases. And it is in the public's best interest that I share this information because, the Canadian Judicial Council is a broken and corrupted screening. The screening officers are it's a joke how they've handled the complaints. I'll be doing a separate video about that. And to be honest, I've reached out to the Minister of Justice, and he refuses to contact me about the conduct of these judges. So this is what it comes down to. Me telling my story, going public. So I want you guys to embrace yourselves because this is going to be a video I never thought I'd be making. So another thing too is, us taxpayers, us citizens, we're all paying for these courts. A lot of these public servants forget they're public servants and they get this corporation mindset, and it's just been an element that I've experienced personally, and it's frustrating. So I want the public to know about this as well because we're all paying for this, and you're not going to believe what I'm about to share. So let's just dive right into this. Okay. So with this family court, there was a staff member there named Robin, who I remember at one point rejected almost 18 of my filings. And there was nothing wrong with those filings. In fact, their managers there, the court managers, Carrie Rice and Sarah Scott, they always accepted it when I reached out to them. I never made any changes. So there's so much incompetence and unnecessary barriers when it comes to filing with these court staff. I had another court staff in civil, Ingrid from the civil court here. She accepted John David Ekping-Young's filings late. Like, this was the appeal I was in. I was doing an appeal for this landlord-tenant mess I was in. And this lawyer, like I said in a previous video, this lawyer was given strict deadlines to file his materials. You know, not once he never filed any of his materials on the deadlines. So this court staff accepts his materials late. Remember, he served me on New Year's Eve while I'm out with friends and family, 8 o'clock at night, right? He was late. And I brought this to this court staff's attention. You know, Rule 16.0310, the deemed service. And by email, anything between 4 p.m. and 12 p.m. is to be filed the next day. Well, this court staff accepted and filed their materials, and when I brought this to this court staff's attention, she didn't even know this rule, and she just said, "Look, bring it up with the judge." You know, what's the point of, you know, hiring court staff if this is some of the stuff they're going to do? The small claims court, they ignored my emails at one point for 6 weeks. I was trying to reschedule another assessment hearing that I'll get into, the small claims matter. That's been it's been another mess dealing with. I had sued this lawyer, John David Ekping-Young, for orchestrating this illegal eviction, damaging my property. This lawyer didn't even bother to file a defense, and he got noted in default. So I filed an assessment hearing, and there was this Deputy Judge James Marnett. He couldn't run it that day. He said, it needs to be in person. So here I'm trying to get another hearing because this lawyer is trying to screw around and label me a fictitious litigant because of 2 small claim matters that I filed that they won't let go. And the landlord-tenant that when I was illegally evicted and I appealed it. They know I got this multi-million-dollar lawsuit on the table, and they're just trying to ruin it. I owe them money. They refuse to accept any money. This lawyer is playing nothing but games with me. And this courthouse is just giving him this canvas to abuse me. The small claims is ignoring me for 6 weeks. And I end up driving up there one day because it's, this is unacceptable. And this is how they're running the show. So I go up there. I'm greeted by this guy at the counter. And I'm actually calling the phone number to the front desk, to this line that no one's picking up. This court staff, this guy, I'm asking him, I'm showing him the phone, I'm calling this number. I'm like, where's this phone go to? He goes around the desk there, and he picks up the phone at his desk. So the phone that's ringing is at this worker's desk, this public servant's desk, just ignoring it. That's where this must have been in April of 2025. This is where I finally meet their manager, Carrie Rice, and I'm going back and forth with her, talking to her because they are refusing to schedule this assessment hearing before the fictitious litigant hearing. So this is what they've done. They've ignored me for 6 weeks, and then they're waiting because someone upstairs is orchestrating all of this, I believe, and they schedule this assessment hearing. They reschedule it because the deputy judge couldn't simply just determine that, hey, this person's noted in default, there's an assessment. They wouldn't do it because they're screwing with me. This courthouse has been nothing but screwing with me and giving me problems. And, this is what this video is. I'm going into every single detail experience with these people that I've gone before. It's given me nothing but problems. So the courthouse schedules my assessment hearing after this fictitious litigant hearing. And I said, can you put it before? You know, they ignore me. I go up there. They're like, no, they can't do it. Da da da. Give me all these reasons. So I wasn't happy about that, clearly. So this is when I'm like, you know what? I want to go up to this trial coordinator's office. I leave the second floor there, their civil and family court windows. I'm like, I'm going to go up to this trial coordinator's office and just simply ask them, why was this family court case scheduled when the trial schedule endorsement form was never filed with the court? And any lawyer will tell you that, and the law tells you, the family law rules will tell you that a trial schedule endorsement form needs to be filled out, served, and filed before any trial is ever scheduled. Well, that was never done. Justice Tweedy filled out their form their trial schedule endorsement form, because John David Ekping-Young didn't know how to do it. He didn't know how to file it. He never did. And this courthouse screwed me over. So I wanted to know, why was this trial coordinator's office scheduling a trial when they didn't have that form? So I go up there, and that's where I asked to speak to somebody. There was a lady there. Another lady comes around, and this lady ended up being Sloane French. And I'll get into how I figured out her name, but this woman gave me nothing but problems. When I spoke to her, I asked her, I said, hey, you know, I was thrown into a trial, and this form was never filed with the court. Like a trial scheduling office should know better. They should know that, unless there's someone upstairs that's orchestrating all of this, bending the rules, turning an eye to the law, and scheduled this trial. Because that's exactly what happened to me. And you know what? I friggin' lost everything because of this stupid family court. I was telling you guys that I got dragged to family court on a restraining order application that was never signed. You know, you guys know the story if you've seen the video. It was complete shit that what they did to me. And all this court did was give the applicant, an ex-girlfriend, and her lawyer a piece of paper to harass me, you know, and that's all they've done. Abuse. They got away with abusing the courts. They profited off the courts. I was ordered to pay $60,000, given a lifetime restraining order against a woman, an ex-girlfriend I had no police history with. Whatever little events that this trial judge was saying, oh, I did this, it was all within a 30-day period. And I peed on a shed. I couldn't get out of this basement. It was just straight up crap. So I'm asking this lady, why was the trial scheduled? I'm being very calm. Out of nowhere, this lady yells security, and I'm like blown away by it. I couldn't believe it. I said to her, I'm like, if you want me to leave, you know, I'll leave. And she's like, yeah, I want you to leave. You know, like, you got no business here. I'm like, I'm inquiring. I do have business here. I'm trying to figure out why. I think it must have been this individual who scheduled the trial, because she was panicking for no reason. And so that's what happened. The security came up to that room that day, and I was actually out of the office. And then I went into the office. There was 4 ladies now. I had these 2 security guards, and I'm like, you know, you asked me to leave, I left. I'm just here to ask a couple questions. This woman flipped her top, got upset because she knows she did something wrong. It was probably Sloane French that scheduled the trial without a trial schedule endorsement form. And if I was to guess, this individual has probably been working, doing that job for 10 years, and she should know better. And I called her out on it, and I caught her, and I did it in a civil, rational manner, and she didn't like that. So eventually the police came up to this trial coordinator's office, and I talked to them. And and you know what? Then they tried to escort me out of the building, and I'm like, you know, I didn't appreciate that, because some woman wants to blurt out security, the police get involved for something that I didn't even do anything wrong, you know, like this is, you know. So then I remember I get downstairs, and then that's where I'm at. I get to the front. I want to file a complaint now. And that's where I'm greeted by another manager of this court. Her name is Geraldine Dubas. And she was sitting there being all nice behind the counter. Oh, what's your name? What's your email? Blah, 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 blah. I'm going to email you. This woman never did anything. This manager is sitting there taking my info. Oh, don't worry, I'll email you. I'll give you the complaint form. Never did anything. And she wouldn't even identify herself. And it wasn't until later on. And then I was talking to Carrie Rice, because this manager is screwing around. She's not getting back to me. Which I didn't appreciate. I didn't appreciate the police escorting me out that day. I did nothing wrong. And they blew this all out of proportion because they're screwing around. This court staff's screwing around with against me. So I'm talking to Carrie Rice about filing a complaint against this individual. I thought her name was Simone. I guess I misheard it was Simone. So Carrie Rice is sending me all these forms to file a complaint against this individual Simone. Okay? This person, Simone, doesn't even exist. They're giving me paperwork to file a complaint against an individual who does not even exist. So it was a couple of days later, I called the office. Or whenever it was, a week later, a couple of days later, I called the trial coordinator's office. And who answers the phone? This Salone French. I said, hey, can I speak to Simone? Because I thought her name was Simone. And that's when she's like, oh, no, you're close. It's Salone. So that's how I found out this individual's name who blurted out security, who most likely scheduled a trial without the basic document that, like I said, any lawyer will tell you, the rules will tell you, the law will tell you, a trial schedule endorsement form needs to be filed. And that was never done. And I was thrown into a trial. Because the Justice Martha Ann Tweedy wanted to, do the lawyer's job, fill out forms she shouldn't have, because that's not being impartial, because they didn't do it. And then she cowardly blocked out 2 pages of transcripts because I am convinced she is covering up a serious misconduct, and this needs to be investigated, and no one's investigating it. The Canadian Judicial Council, the screening officers, are broken and corrupted. They need to be investigated. And the Minister of Justice, he won't even get back to me about this information. So we've got a major problem of some serious corruption allegations with this Waterloo Courthouse that no one wants to investigate. So here I am making these videos. So this Salone tells me, oh, if you don't like what I have to say, da-da-da-da. Oh, no, sorry, this is what she said. She said to me, when I was talking to her that day, and she told me her name, I said, you know what? Because you scheduled that trial, I lost everything. I was ordered to pay money. My bank accounts are frozen. Like, you don't know the mess you've made in my life. She said to me, quote unquote, she said, I don't care. And that's what she said. And she said, if you don't like it, you can talk to my manager, John Hornby, who I did, and who wasn't helpful for the least bit. I ended up finally getting him on the phone. I talked to him through a couple emails, sitting there telling me, oh, employees shouldn't be talking like that, blah, 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 blah. He gets back to me in this email saying, it was a joke. It was a joke. And I'll share everything that I have with you guys. That email was a joke. He's trying to turn it around on me because he must have talked to this lady. And they try to say, oh, I was like not talking nice or something. Like, are you kidding me? That's not what happened. And then he refused to communicate with me after that. So that's just a snippet of some of the problems, the major problems I've had with this courthouse. And it ain't right. And so I'm talking about it. And, I want to get into these small claims, these problems I've had with the deputy judges, 2 in particular, actually 3. Just Deputy Judge Paul Familia, Deputy Judge James Marnett, and Deputy Judge Green. And it's not right. So 2 small claim matters. I got 1 for defamation because this lawyer, John David Ekpyong, and his client, what they tried to say to the court, they tried to tell me, I was stalking, I was harassing. But that was bullshit. I never did any of that. I admitted that I seen my ex driving by pretty much where I live in Burlington. And I mentioned that one of the family court hearings, they turned it around. And I've shared this with you guys before, how they try to say like, oh, there's 200,000 people in Burlington. How does he know where she is? I had no idea I knew where she was. She just happened to drive by where I live. And then these loons try to turn this around on me. They try to tell me I was dealing cocaine in the Bahamas, smuggling bulk cocaine in the Bahamas, all this crap. Straight up slander and defamation. Unlike these videos, I'm factual. I'm telling the truth. And this was a matter about defamation. And so basically, yeah, you guys aren't going to believe this. All the crap that these two got away with, the lies. And, there was the first appearance with Deputy Judge Paul Familia, where John David Ekping-Young lied. He straight up lied to this judge and said that I refused to show up. He served me. And he never did. Right? And you should see what this deputy judge wrote in his endorsement. It was just like almost Ekping-Young just manipulated like he usually does, and everything what was said in there was just you could tell it was these lies from Ekping-Young, and Ekping-Young telling this judge I refused to show up, and then he emailed me the next day telling me, oh, you refuse to show up, blah, 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 blah. I'm looking at the email. The courts included you. They never did. It was straight up gaslighting. You guys seen the gaslighting this lawyer did. This was one of them. I had to email the courts, and I had to get an emergency motion to set aside a motion. And that was heard on March 12th, 2024, before James Marnett. This deputy judge wouldn't even let me speak. I had my hand raised up in Zoom. He ignored me. He almost just ended the hearing. Like, it was just straight up crap. I'm the one who scheduled this motion, and this deputy judge was almost going to end the motion without letting me speak. Okay? I brought this up to this deputy judge about how Ekping-Young was caught lying red-handed to Judge Familia. He didn't even care. He didn't even care. Like, this is some of the crap I'm talking about. If you're a lawyer, you get caught red-handed, lying to the courts, lying to these judges, you need your ass handed to you, and you need to be reprimanded, not rewarded like they have been. And you know what? Again, this video is all about these events of all these very shady things that happened. And you know what? The list just goes on. And I'm like I said, I'm in shock that this has even happened on my dime. So then now we're at a point where John David Ekping-Young and I'm like, I just want to drop this case, right? I want to drop this this defamation small claims case. John David Ekping-Young, he wants to, he's like, okay, I'll get all the paperwork ready for you. Da, da, da. I'm like, perfect. Like this, I don't want to deal with this. The next day, he gets back to me and says, oh no, my client, she refuses to let you withdraw the case. And she wants $8,000 for you to drop the case for the money she spent. So at this point, she's already been awarded $60,000. So she already has the impression she can get away with abusing the courts. And so can this lawyer. He's probably right in his ear chirping, telling her to do this. And now they think they can get away with more abuse and not recover cost. And they can profit. Because if you look at that 1 or 2 pages defense, and they're saying that they spent $8,000, this is why these people need to be audited, and they're not. And it just ain't right, so now it's June 17th, 2024. We get before Deputy Green. I tell this judge I want to just stop the case. I want to dismiss it. They won't let me. They won't let me. This judge then says, oh, it's going to go to a trial. I'm like, I don't want to go to a trial. This deputy judge puts on her endorsement. The plaintiff is granted leave to set this matter down for a trial. I never requested to schedule a trial. This is just how screwed up this stuff is, and I haven't even scratched the surface. Like, you guys aren't going to believe this. I get into my other small claims, the damage. I got 2 small claim matters. I sued this lawyer and his client for that illegal eviction. That was just straight up bullshit what they did to me. There was no need for it. I was 90% packed up. I was trying to move. I couldn't. So I filed the small claims for the damage to my property. John David Ekping and his client never even filed a defense. They never filed a defense, and they got noted in default October 18th, 2024. Right? I filed a motion for default judgment. January 21st, 2025. We get before Deputy Judge James Marnett. This deputy judge says the hearing can't be heard, or an in-person hearing is required. Says it's doubtful that the claim discloses cause of action against either defendant. Right? So he's putting on this piece of paper. Like, this is just, man, it gets me so upset just thinking about this stuff. And, this is them just screwing with me. These 2 illegally evicted me. Lost tens of thousands of dollars at losses. It was just crap. And this deputy judge is sitting there and saying that he can't make a decision. These people are noted in default. They haven't filed a defense. So they're screwing me around more, right? March 26, 2025, we have an assessment hearing before Deputy Judge Familia. So it's just basically these 2 deputy judges that have been handling these 2 small claims. This deputy judge, so Ekping, he files a motion. He files a motion a day before. Now tell me this. How does this guy get a motion filed with the courts one day before, not even 24 hours before, when they won't even answer my calls or emails for 6 weeks? This is the crap I'm talking about with this court staff and this small claims court. And I haven't even got into the dealings with the Crown or these judges yet. And this deputy Familia, he won't let the assessment hearing go through because they bring up, there's this fictitious litigant application, which is completely different. Right? So this judge, straight up, he ignorantly adjourned. He stayed this proceeding, waiting this other fictitious litigant application, which is just straight up bullshit, right? 2 small claim matters, a landlord tenant and an appeal, and they're trying to label me a fictitious litigant because they're the ones caught screwing around. They're the ones caught submitting fraudulent documents. I've got a $3.5 million lawsuit that they want to mess with. I'm trying to make payments. They don't want to accept payments. Trying to make my life a living hell for no good reason. So this judge, this deputy judge, like, he lets them run their motion, not even properly filed with the courts, not 24 hours. Meanwhile, I've been waiting since pretty much October, and now we're at the end of March, and John David Ekping never filed any defense. And these courts are just screwing with me. These deputy judges are just messing with me, allowing this crap. They haven't filed a defense. They got noted in default. And all they're doing, like I said, this has just been nothing but a handicap match with these courts and these judges and these deputy judges and these court staff and these Crown attorneys that I'm going to get into after this. JD, and the other thing too, the other psychotic and element of all this, John Ekping wrote his materials as if his client wrote this motion. And I'm going to share that with you guys. And this just is another example of just how psychotic and unhinged this lawyer is. And it's just insane reading his materials. He typed it out as if his client wrote it. It's just insane, guys, what I'm dealing with. I mentioned the deputy Familia. how Ekping straight up lied to him at another hearing. And you know what? This Deputy Famua, he refused to listen to me. I mentioned to this judge that this lawyer just got straight up caught. He got caught lying to this deputy. They dismissed my complaint because this friggin' lawyer, he lied. He got caught lying. And you know what? These judges, these deputy judges, these courts, they continue to reward this behavior. The Law Society refuses to do anything, right? So Deputy Famua's, he stays the assessment hearing, pending this fictitious litigant decision, which is completely bullshit. Okay, we're here to deal with something, and you're going to make me wait further and give these guys more chances. They haven't even filed a defense. They're noted in default. This is how retarded this is just a straight up mess. I can't believe it that I'm dealing with this, and I'm upset about it. I really am, and I think it's pretty obvious. You know, this is just how screwed up our courts are. You know, how cases are being mishandled, and how reps like myself continue to get abused. This is just abuse. What I'm dealing with these courts. You know, it's just nothing but a handicap match, right? And you know, so that's some of the problems right there with the court staff. This is problems with these deputy judges, these small claims cases, the court staff there. It's just nothing but a mess. You know, this private prosecution, you know, dealing with the Crown in that Kitchener courthouse with nothing but a joke. John David Ekping and his client was charged with perjury and submitting fraudulent documents. They got caught lying to judges. They submitted fraudulent bills of cost. And you know what? These courts did nothing about it. They just enabled these people to get away with abusing me. And it was just straight up horse shit what I went through. You know, this Crown's office, they just played games with me. They wrote this lawyer's name down wrong. The first appearance, they weren't prepared. The second appearance, they weren't prepared. The third appearance, they had Crown Attorney Paul Williams, who was defending these two like he was retained. He was talking smack to me, like saying how I refused to show up in person. Like, it was just a joke. I'm sorry, it was a fucking joke. How this Crown handled this. This Crown was fighting tooth and nail. So again, who was upstairs instructing this Crown to do this? You know? And then this Crown started shooting his mouth off at me when the judge went to the chambers to go read the materials, who was Deputy Judge or Justice of the Peace Monroe. And he apologized to me a few times for not being prepared. They were never prepared. No one was. And then this Crown Attorney, like I said, was shooting his mouth off at me while the judge was in the chambers and the camera was off and the mic was off because I was talking to the Crown. You should have seen this guy jumping out of his seat, raising his voice, and then laughing after like it's some joke. You know, it's a disgrace what our tax dollars are going into. You know, into these courts, these public servants, and you know, so he did that. He's talking, so that happens, and the judge comes out of the chambers, and you know, he says, "Oh well," he was in there probably for 40 minutes reviewing the materials. I didn't know what the heck he was doing, right? I thought he was consulting with someone, to be honest, because like I said, this is just, I have my suspicions about all of this, and this all comes to that family court matter and those things that were said on that endorsement and things that happened. And you know, this, when you got a judge blocking out transcripts, covering up some serious potential unethical misconduct, that is corruption. Everything is tied into corruption with this case. And I was told when Justice Monroe came back out, I was told I had to come to the court in person. I had to drive from Burlington to Kitchener and to print off my materials. So I do the drive from Burlington to Waterloo, and you know what? The court straight up played me. These Crown attorneys, they just played me. Monroe Deputy Monroe calls me up and then tells me to stand up and talk. And that's when this Crown attorney sitting in, Jason Lim, stands up and says the Crown is staying the proceedings. This is just another example of how broken and corrupted our legal system is. Like, this is just an absolute joke. These Crown attorneys were protecting two individuals who were caught red-handed committing perjury, who were caught red-handed submitting fraudulent documents. And what do? They protect them like they were retained. And this is why I say our legal system is a fucking joke. It is. You know what? It's just, it is so upsetting. You know, when we're preparing for this video and all these things that happened, all these things I went through, all the trouble and the heartache and the grief these judges gave me, these courts gave me, these court staff gave me, these deputy judges, this Crown attorney. It's fucking retarded. It's just the honest truth. What I dealt with. And you know what? Now what I'm going to get into is my experience with these judges, with some of these judges. And you know what? All of the judges I went before, some of them demonstrated corruption, abusing their powers as public servants, blatantly lying on endorsements, filling out forms that they shouldn't have, and then blocking out nearly 2 pages of transcripts. Going behind our backs and deleting and altering an endorsement and with no explanation and no warning, deleting 10 pages down to 1. I'm still trying to figure out if that's forgery or not, or are judges allowed to do this? Like, there's been no clarification. I've been completely left in the dark throughout this whole mess. Down to 1. Ignoring rules, acting non-impartial, allowing the opposing party to either not file mandatory filings, allowing them to file late, pre-written endorsements. There was a 900 word pre-written endorsement. And the only body in Canada that handles complaints against judges is the Canadian Judicial Council, who refuses to do anything about these things that I'm about to get into. Most of them I've already shared with you guys. The screening officers I dealt with is just a disgrace to the integrity of our legal system. And this is just more proof of just how broken and corrupted our courts are. The Minister of Justice refuses to acknowledge my emails and calls. We have a major problem with corruption in our courts in this country. And I'm just in shock that all this is happening, and that these individuals are getting away with it. Problem started with these judges. The problem started with Justice Tweedy. She caused 18 months of unnecessary and prejudicial adjournments. She filled out the trial schedule endorsement form on behalf of Ekpenyang, then blocked out 2 pages of transcripts to cover up a serious misconduct. That trial schedule endorsement form was never even filed with the courts and by the lawyer, which is required by the family law. And any family law lawyer will tell you that form needs to be filled out, served, and filed by the parties, not a judge. And that was never even done. The judge filled it out, blocked out 2 pages of transcripts, and then this lawyer didn't even bother to file it online. Because like I said before, the way this lawyer moves is a serious question. I don't think he knows what he's doing. And I want to confirm his credentials. This is exactly why I want to confirm his credentials. He doesn't fill out forms. He doesn't sign them. He doesn't file them. And yet this happened a handful of times. And yet the proceedings still went forth. This was brought up to the trial judge at the family court, Justice Michael Gibson. And that's when he said, oh, well, we're here now. We're going to deal with this. Well, it's like, what about the rules and the laws? What's the point of having rules and laws if the courts aren't going to abide by them? This is tied into corruption, this case, this family court case. Justice Gibson said on his endorsement 4 things that was extremely contradictory to the truth and the evidence presented. He wrote on his endorsement, I called the applicant, I emailed her, I was not a tenant, and I breached my temporary restraining order. You know none of these things ever happened? Do you know that the applicant tried to say that I called her, she provided this phone history of private calls that I never made. You know, I provided my phone call history to prove I didn't make those calls. You know, she admitted at the trial she never answered those calls. I never called this woman. I want nothing to do with this person. You know, she emailed herself. This judge put in his endorsement, I emailed her. You know, I put in a previous video, she emailed herself. If you look at those emails, she copied and pasted a part of an email that I had sent to her lawyer. And the judge says that I emailed her. The judge says I was not a tenant. Yes, I was a tenant. The applicant and her lawyer, in bad faith, withheld the police report where she admitted I was renting her basement. I was a tenant. I was paying rent. She applied for an eviction application because an ex-girlfriend did me a favor and rented her basement out December 10th when I was in a pinch because another lease agreement fell through and all my items was in a U-Haul truck trying to find a place. I couldn't get one because there was this crap with my previous landlord and how they were a real estate agent, and I'm pretty sure they flagged me because I was renting a shitty new townhouse that had nothing but problems, and the owner lived in New York and was like never around to help, and it was just a shit show. That my ex-girlfriend did me a favor and let me rent her basement. And yes, I was renting renting this person's basement. We were not cohabitating. This judge says we were cohabitating. He says I moved back in. She was my spouse. No, she was not. I did not live with her. And then this judge says that I breached my temporary restraining order. No, I didn't. Never. Never did I ever breach my temporary restraining order. Never was I charged. Never was I warned. So that's another big problem I got, is I got this endorsement online with the judge saying these things, and I'll show you guys all in this video. This judge gave me a permanent, this judge, Justice Gibson, entertained a fraudulent bill of $160,000, ordered me to pay $60,000. That just enabled these people to further abuse me and harass me. 72 days later, after being ordered to pay $62,000, this scumbag lawyer runs to the courthouse 72 days later and starts a garnishment. And that's another problem with this court. None of them had the friggin' decency, common courtesy to ever say, hey, what kind of attempts have you made? Show us that Mr. Dobson refuses to make payments. Because they never did. And the court just granted them this garnishment. These friggin' scumbags friggin' annihilated me financially. This judge gave me a permanent restraining order when there was no police history. When there was, 30 days of them adding pressure, trying to get me out of this basement apartment I was trying to get out of. I was living in Cambridge, working in Toronto, trying to view places, taking care of my sick grandmother in Burlington, and these friggin' boneheads are on me, move out. I wanted to. I just didn't want to put my stuff. They were like, just move, just find another place. This is how the rocks in their heads they have. You think I'm just going to go get first and last at some dump that I don't want to live in? Mind you, this is the peak of COVID, okay? It wasn't that easy. And it's so easy, blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm not just going to go play first and last at some dump to buy some time when I could have civilly, which I was trying to do, find a place after work so I can move my stuff out of the basement into an apartment. I ended up having to move up when I got illegally evicted. I had to move stuff downstairs, and then I had to move into a storage unit, which was a friggin' nightmare. Putting all my stuff up in that unit and then getting it down when I had to leave, it was a friggin' disaster. Justice Braid going behind our backs and deleting and altering that endorsement, that 10-page endorsement down to 1 page, removing critical information from that endorsement that I was going to rely on at my appeal, which was just a disaster. That appeal, they allowed them 1 year to file their materials when the courts have strict deadlines, telling me, it wasn't prejudice. And still no one has answered to that. No one has answered to this deleted and altered endorsement that this judge deleted behind our backs. To me, that reeks forgery. That reeks a major misconduct. And they did this joke of a Canadian Judicial Council screening office department refuses to investigate this. And again, more of our tax dollars as citizens are all paying for this mess. These courthouses, these public servants, these complaint services, it's all funded through tax dollars. And they're just ruining people's lives like they've ruined my life. We went before Justice Gibson again on December 19, 2024. This was for that fictitious litigant application where John David Ekping threw his application at my door. Again, I'm questioning his credentials because that is not a proper way of serving. In fact, this lawyer told me, he's like, oh, the server looked through the peephole and saw you and you refused to answer, which is bullshit. I wasn't even home. And you can't even look through these peepholes, even if you said more gaslighting and blatantly lying from this judge. So I brought this up to Justice Gibson's attention. That is not a proper way of serving. And this application shouldn't have even been heard. And there was 3 hearings for this. There was a motion eventually that I'm still waiting for a decision, which is just going to ruin all my lawsuits, which is just straight up bullshit. So I brought this up to Justice Gibson's attention on January 9th, where they double booked me. I was double booked. On December 19th, before Justice Gibson, I brought this up to him. Rule 16.035, serving. You can't just drop it off at a doorstep. And these judges should know this. And you know what? They just let it slide, right? Because they're all in on it together just to fucking put me on the street and ruin my life. Because that is what happened. There was no way out getting out of this stuff. So they reschedule. You know what they did that day on the 19th? When we went to that court, this judge tells us, you guys haven't confirmed your attendance. Come back at 3 o'clock. A week before Christmas, I asked for this hearing to be put in January, and this scumbag, John David Ekping, ignored my email, lied to the courts, told them that he conferred with me with this date. He didn't do shit. He never conferred nothing with me, and when I asked him not to do it before Christmas, he ignored me. We get before Justice Gibson. I'm already a friggin' nervous wreck. Like, I don't want to be dealing with this shit, and they haven't even followed the rules. It's been nothing but a handicap match. Justice Gibson tells us, come back at 3 o'clock. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, my nerves are shot. Come back at 3 o'clock. Justice Gibson puts it over. Fucking wasted time. This lawyer never confirmed his attendance. And this is what I'm talking about. He doesn't know what he's doing. Yeah, I can tell you right now, he has not confirmed one attendance in 3 years that I've dealt with this lawyer. Maybe 1 or 2, if that. And these judges know that these conferences and these motions and these hearings are not supposed to commence, and they still ran most of them, if not all of them, except this one, obviously. They double booked me January 9th. I had that private prosecution to come back to, which was a joke, and then I had this. We get before Justice MacArthur. And also, too, the trial coordinator's office, they refuse to reschedule it. They know I'm double booked. They're just fucking with me. That's all they were doing this whole time. They double booked me. They refused to move the date over. The other party has to agree. Ekping not going to agree. He knows I have that hearing. This lawyer just loves to see me squirm, and you know what I mean? Like, it's sickening what goes through this lawyer's head. What I've experienced with this lawyer. And the lies he's gotten away with, and the courts, how they've allowed it. So we get in front of Justice MacArthur, who had a pre-written 900-word endorsement. And he was making comments. I actually ordered transcripts from that day because of some of the things that was said on record that I couldn't believe. This judge was like mad at me. He was. He had an attitude against me. And he kept saying, "Oh, you guys," he was mad because of we weren't working things out. This this lawyer and his client will refuse to work things out. They refuse to drop anything. They refuse to make payment. And how are the courts going to be so ignorant to be upset at me because these boneheads will not stop abusing these courts? You know what I mean? They won't let me cancel these cases. They won't let me make payments. They harass me with these this restraining order. And this judge was going off that day about how there was an individual there, a refugee who's in the hospital that's trying to go for surgery, and how this individual was able to resolve it with the other lawyers and da 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 da. And I'm thinking, what does that have to do with my case? Absolutely nothing. What, the fact that a refugee is clogging up our hospitals with surgeries while Canadians can't get them and they're dying, oh, they can resolve it. I can't resolve it. They won't. This comment had nothing to do with the case, other than trying to resolve it, and this lawyer won't do it. This judge, Justice MacArthur, ends up throwing me out at the end. They were just rough with me the whole time. Every judge has just been rough and unfair with me. John David Ekping refuses to drop anything and refuses to let me make payments. And I said this to that judge, and I barely got anything out. The judge was mad at me, threw me out, and I was just shocked about that. Again, I tell another judge how this lawyer did not properly serve me, and it told him the rules, and he didn't like that because he knows that's the law. You need to properly serve them. Again, I was not properly served. What's the point of having laws and rules if court staff isn't going to follow it, if lawyers aren't going to follow it, if judges aren't going to follow it, and they're just going to friggin' pin me to the cross like they have been? That's all this is. It's just pinning me to the cross, slowly bleeding out. And it's excessive. It's abusive. And I don't know what else to do anymore except to share these experiences. So I get before Justice Reed. I'm almost going to wrap it up here. I get before Justice Reed. I file a motion for this appeal for the divisional court. And these guys this lawyer did not follow the proper ways. It took him 1 year to file his materials. This shouldn't even be going to an appeal. They've been just screwing me around, this court. And Justice Reed says on the record that I never filed materials. I refused to file my confirmation, which is just straight up untrue. You guys know that I served my materials. I filed it with the court. I confirmed my confirmation. I put my materials on case lines. And this judge is going to sit there on his endorsement, say I didn't do it. And I will show you guys my materials. I will show you everything. Like, this is just the crap that I've been going up against. Judges are making comments on endorsements that can't be backed up by facts or evidence. In fact, I'm gonna in this video, I'm gonna be sharing the exact opposite to show you guys, because this needs to get off my chest, and the public needs to know about this stuff, because this is straight up horse shit. And if it's happening to me, how many other Canadians out there is this happening to? We went before Justice Krachenko. He allowed the appeal to be ran. Ekping Young never filed his materials on time. He filed his materials late. This judge said nothing about Justice Braid deleting and altering that document. I brought it to his attention. This judge, I busted my ass off on that appeal. I worked so hard on that appeal. It was a no-brainer. I was a tenant. I was illegally evicted. And again, they cannot let me win anything because of this family court case, because of what they did. And honestly, it's Kitchener's top judge whose name is on that endorsement. So I feel like, if I was to guess, I feel like there has been some influence in the chambers pertaining to all these cases. And that's what it's just. It's like, it seems like a no-brainer. John David Ekping never filed any of his materials properly, with this case. It was a year late. This judge said it was not prejudice because I got them in time to review. Of course it was prejudice. If, you guys let these two slip through the cracks, not even filling out forms, not even showing up, and you hammer me. This judge made a decision within 2 business days, almost 2 years of going back and forth because this lawyer never showed up. This judge determined cost within hours. John David Ekping never filed his cost properly. They had to get transferred an email to this judge. He couldn't even follow the simple basic English on that endorsement on how to file your costs. They never even did that properly, and this judge still entertained it. This judge entertained a fraudulent bill of $23,000 that was never worked, that was never paid, okay? And this judge ordered me to pay $7,000, okay? The public needs to know about these things that I went through with this Waterloo Kitchener Courthouse. The problems I had with the court staff. All the stuff I mentioned. The court staff, the deputy judges, the crown attorneys, the judges. We're all paying for this stuff. And this is how they're conducting themselves. And this is not right. This is not fair. This is abuse. These are 50 examples of public servants getting paid from our tax dollars, abusing their powers on my dime. And, I want to get this stuff all off my chest, and I want to get it all out to the public. And this is just insane what they did to me. How badly they steamrolled me, how dirty they played, When you got to block out transcripts and you got to delete endorsements, that's called corruption. All these cases are tied into corruption. There's so much corruption in that courthouse, and it needs to be audited. But you got this broken and corrupted Canadian Judicial Screening Officer Department who don't want to do their job and give me all these bogus reasons to dismiss complaints, and then you got the Minister of Justice who refuses to talk to me about this. This ain't right. No, this ain't right. So I'm just going to leave the video at that. I will be doing branch off videos about that. I know it's been a long video. I really appreciate everyone that is supporting my channel, that is watching these videos. I need your guys' help to subscribe, to like, to comment, to share, to get my story out to the public. This is exactly why class action lawsuits are filed. Because of stuff like this. Public servants abusing their powers, getting caught red-handed. And there needs to be change. So I'm going to leave the video at that. If you guys have watched this to this point, I can't thank you guys enough. And it's never easy talking about this stuff. And I'm just glad I'm able to get some more stuff off of my chest. And thank you guys for watching.